Last week, Democrats and Republicans came together to set up a responsible, long-term budget process.
This deal's not content with spending increases. It also takes the debt ceiling and essentially hands President Obama a blank credit card.
Why is the national debt such a large issue in our country? And why does the number continue to increase?
Is it because people are not educated about the issue, or our politicians don't even care?
Funding U.S. military in the Middle East.
Rising unemployment,
The housing crisis,
and other domestic and economic issues that have spiked the national debt after the new millennium.
We took it to the streets to see what the public knows about this issue.
The national debt of America is
$1 trillion.
at $5 trillion. Is $6.8 billion.
Let's see. So Americans probably $50 billion.
100 million.
It's $11 million.
$13 trillion.
I want to say $36 trillion.
Around 10 trillion, I think.
1 million?
the problem is many people are not educated about this issue and have no idea what our candidates are saying.
If we look at the history of the national debt, we will be able to address the problems head-on and analyze the root causes of the national debt.
The origins of the national debt go way back to the founding of our country. By 1790, after the American Revolution, America was already in $71 million of debt. In 1835, under President Andrew Jackson, the national debt had decreased all the way down to a remarkable $0. This was the first and only time in history that the national debt was zero. Since 1974, when the national debt was a total of $256 billion, the debt ceiling has been raised a total of 74 times.
Why does Congress continue to lift the debt ceiling and letting the national debt continue to grow?
That's a great question. They shouldn't be lifting the debt ceiling. That's why we have such a debt crisis.
In 1994, under President Clinton, the United States had a surplus of $236.2 billion.
Our debt is $1.7 trillion less this year than it was projected to be back in 1993.
Over the past decade, the national debt has reached levels that it has never risen to before.
As we can see, there are many different factors that have caused the national debt, but one main contributor is indeed the U.S.'s involvement in the Middle East.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
The war with Iraq cost the United States over $6 trillion and billions of dollars that have gone unaccounted for. Many people are questioning, was it even justifiable for the United States to go to war with Iraq?
I think America had a choice to use the SEALs to get the job done, but since we decided to go into the war, then we should have stayed to get the job done.
I don't think so, because one, we did not gain anything out of the war. Two, it increased our national debt. And really, we don't need to butt into other people's business, you know.
After the recent Paris attacks, many countries have begun using forces against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. And with the United States doing that as well, people are questioning once again, is it justifiable?
Currently, it's not about money. It's about the national security, just for not United States, for everybody that is surrounding in the Middle East or in the European nations. Therefore, it's important to, when you start, you end correctly.
Well, I think it's okay to go to war as long as you have an end game in mind. Right now, we don't know how to go to war, and none of the candidates has any idea how to go to war.
What are the presidential candidates going to address to this issue?
Dr. Ben Carson stated that, I plan to address this on my first day in office, January 20th, 2017. Here's what I will do on day one. I will tell the nation that, beginning immediately, we will no longer borrow money from future generations to sustain the growth of government or empower it over ordinary Americans. Donald Trump has said that he would reduce the top income tax rate from 39.6% to 25%, slash the tax rate for the largest corporations from 35% to 15%, lower the tax rate on stock and bonds profits, and entirely eliminate the estate tax. Bernie Sanders has a 10-step plan to decrease the national debt, which includes stop corporations from using offshore tax havens to avoid U.S. taxes, establish a Robin Hood tax on Wall Street, and end tax breaks for big companies. But is this plan both feasible and possible to be completed in 8 years?
Which candidate has offered the best plan regarding the national debt?
No candidate has offered any feasible plan and showed any numbers that can decrease the national debt, so I'd say none.
Even though the candidates have addressed their issue, is it enough to trust them for decreasing the national debt?
As youth of America, we should be well informed about the national debt.
And make sure our president addresses this issue the day that he sets his foot into office.
1, 2.